Welcome to Riot, welcome to Radical Impartation of Truth. We're going to be taking you back to the Icon Tower studio as we continue with the live session we had with Kent and Ruth Hodge as we discussed our response to radical Islam.
So eventually the car was moving and the car went off the road and crashed, and then I was just expecting more bullets to come to finish everyone in the car at that point, but the shooting stopped. That's when I noticed that Emmanuel Razak had been hit. I was feeling for bullets in myself because I heard that people say sometimes you don't feel them, but I didn't have any. I was just a shock. For 3 days I'd look in the mirror to shave and just so surprised to see myself there. Just who was this person? Because I didn't expect to be alive at all. But later on, standing outside, and then a robbery went on for about an hour, and they were threatening to kidnap us and kill us and all that. But eventually, they drove us into the bush and they left.
What did you tell them?
I told them I was a missionary. They just kept wanting money. I said I don't carry money. And I just helped them look through everything, that's all. And they said, we're going to kill you if you don't give money. And I said, well, I don't have any. So, I mean, I was not afraid of them at all. If anything, I felt for these people, I think. Because they're the ones that are in the wrong position when it comes to the things of God and their, what they're doing.
You felt for the people who just shot your colleague and they're about to kill you and you feel for them. What do you feel for them?
Well, I think that would have been Razak's response too, because he loved people himself. And that's how he responded. We always talked about forgiveness. It was just an armed robbery. But he had gone to Muslim communities himself, Reverend Razak, before this time, building bridges and making relationships, even in areas where I didn't know he was doing it. And so I know his heart was always to reach out to the enemy as well.
Just a moment. I will take you back. Ruth, has he always been like that? I'm struggling with that a bit. Our viewers might watch and say, are you for real? How did you feel about hearing that?
Well, I think, we've been in Nigeria for a long time and we've experienced threats before. And, you get to the point, well, if I die, I die. And I know Kent would feel like that. Not that you want to die. You don't want to die. There's a lot to do. You have family. You want to see your grandchildren. You don't want to die. I knew there was a problem because I was in Australia. Kent would text me when he left Abuja. He would text me when he arrived in Jos. And I knew the time it should be. It was too long. So I knew there was a problem. I was praying. You know the risks. But I wasn't even panicking. I had a sense of peace that God was with him. And I know that when it happened, there was just a tremendous sadness. Everywhere, all over northern Nigeria, people are suffering these things. They're suffering attacks every day. They're not safe when they sleep at night. They're not safe when they send their children to school. And not safe trading in the marketplace. And there's an intense sadness that comes on you. And you begin to experience just a little bit of what other people experience every day. So I did understand, and he's not pretending. I think maybe when we were younger we didn't feel like this, but as we get older, more and more that sadness of the suffering of people comes on you, and you just say, God, what can I do? What would you have done? Becomes the issue in your heart. And sometimes you get angry, sometimes you don't feel like that, but it's when you calm down and think, God, help me to make a difference, that you become empowered to do something. The anger, just in any area of your life, when you react in anger, it's usually a bad thing.
What about holy anger? Is it okay to have some kind of a passion and anger towards something that is not right? How do you fix injustice if you're not angry at injustice? I mean, we have an audience here. Probably as we round up, as you talk about this, we can throw it open to the audience because I found out that few anger can become a fuel if it's directed by the Spirit of God. I don't know, I stand to be corrected, but I guess we're calling it different things. That burden and that passion, you know. On the radio today, a lady was sharing how her brother on BBC Two, her brother phoned in. He works in Nigeria. And he phoned in to say, you might not see me again. They've been attacking our area. You know, they're British, but it's not just Nigerians.
No.
The reality is global terror has come to stay, it seems, and is redefining how life and how people look at things. What is the way forward? I mean, I believe that's part of why you wrote this.
I think the whole thing about the gospel is about reconciliation, and in many ways in modern times we've made it about ourselves, and you know, and so we've become in many ways comfortable or middle class in the way we live. And whereas Jesus came to reconcile God's enemies with God, and there was a cost to that. It was taking up our cross. He took up his cross. And so today, when God calls us to be his sons, we're followers of Christ. So it's about coming out of our zone and seeking out people that have needs and our enemies, all the things that Jesus taught, and seeking reconciliation through the gospel. But the gospel isn't just by word, it's by action. So it's doing the things among the community, among the enemies that Jesus did in his life.
I believe you have been doing some things. I was in Nigeria recently and I was able to visit some of the locations you've been doing that. But we'll get to that. We'll take a break now. Once again, email us, give us a call, send a text, leave a voicemail so that next program or other editions of the show, we can play your voicemail and respond to it. We're going to take a break and see you on the other side of this. Welcome back. What do you think about the issues that were raised? How do you think as a believer you can respond to hatred, to bitterness, to terror? Should a Christian willingly lay down their life or should they take up arms and fight? What do you think? Well, you can email us. Let's hear your thoughts. We'd like to send out some gifts to those of you who have been emailing us. So continue to watch, continue to send your emails, and you might get a package in the mail. We're going to take a break now, and we're just going to show you highlights of some of the things we've been doing in Icon Towers. We've been shooting music videos, we've been doing a lot of photography, and you know, we've actually laid out for the year a couple of music videos to shoot, but check this out. Well, welcome to another edition of Behind the Scenes at Icon Towers. I have always been interested in using photography as a journalistic tool, but very recently, as we moved to a new studio and we've had the space, I've now begun to dabble into portrait photography. Here are a few pictures I took some days back. Beyond photography and lighting, we've been having live performances as we had Daro in the house, Daro of BNG. We also had some live comedy which we're going to be bringing to you. We had CY, a brilliant comedian, doing his thing. We had Grand Commander. Also here are bits and pieces of a music video we've been working on recently. I mean, we're working on the sitcom. There's a particular video that we're working on that has loads of dance. We've also been filming all sorts of live performances, jazz, and we've just been doing a wide range of different kinds of audio video production. Well, it's been great having you on Behind the Scenes of Icon Towers. We're going to be bringing you much more than that. Welcome back from that. Let's get back to the studio as we discuss with Kent and with Hodge and some of our other guests who came in as we began to talk about this very pertinent issue of radical Islam and our response to it. Welcome back to Radical Impartation of Truth. We've been talking about the response to Islamism, radical Islam, and global terror, and we have a guest in the house, or a couple of guests in the house, Dr. Kent Hodge and a few other people. For a couple of years now, I've been trying to document the growth, the spread, and the impact of radical Islam in northern Nigeria. I've taken photos, I've done interviews, and to be honest, it has gone from just some attacks here and there to a major spread of radicalism taking over states. It's gone beyond just the North Central, like what we experienced in Plateau State and in Jos. And we put this documentary together called Plateau the Final Frontier, concerned that if this goes beyond the middle belt, then Nigeria is being pushed over the edge. What do we do? What does the government do? I have spoken with government officials in Nigeria and in the UK, and I'd like to throw it open right now to the audience we have here.
My name is Moses Ida Michaels. I'm from the middle belt of Nigeria. My wife and I met and got married in Jos. I went to the University of Jos. My 2 degrees are from Jos, actually. But I now live in Scotland. My heart goes back home to all of the violence that we see. And part of what interests me is the response of governments around the world. We know that radical Islam is something that affects everyone, and everyone is rushing to proffer some kind of response. And yet, there's an article on the 15th of January by Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs is someone the whole world knows about the war with radical Islam. All of a sudden, there's an avalanche of commentaries on Twitter today, and everybody's talking about radical Islam. It's a big conversation. What should governments do? I feel there is the political side of what government does. There's a building of camps where some people begin to see themselves as belonging to one side. So is the West. There's the West proxy war with the East, with the Middle Belt, with the Middle East because of oil. There is the Iraq war. There is the war in Afghanistan, there is Iran and Iraq, there is Israel at the center of everything, world politics. Now, it's difficult for nations to be able to pick up this, but what I think nations should start up with, first of all, before I ask a question to Ken Hodge, Kent Hodge, what I think is this. Is this not time for us to stop building all of these barriers and sensationalizing the political implications of what is happening? Because there is the us versus the them at all times. So the West, for example, we know that the outcry in the West right now is to blacklist everyone who looks black. There is the anti-Islam movement. Are we going to make Europe better? Because we now all hate Muslims for what they have done. And that's the question I want to bring to Kent Hodge. I think there is the need for us to diffuse the tension. But to diffuse the tension is not necessarily for us to give away who we are.
But people have legitimate concerns. I mean, they are going into restaurants and shooting people down. They are beheading people in the city. People should be upset.
Absolutely.
You know, and
we're not going to say we sit down and accept the way of life. So government has a responsibility to defend life. I feel like the government should first of all defend life and make sure that these kind of things do not happen. But what I also want to talk about is actually the politicizing of these events. Government should stay away from making these things an opportunity for one camp to have an upper hand over another camp, and should seek true reconciliation.
Well, we could talk about this for hours, and really, things like this really need a lot of look into the Gospels, into the message of Jesus, and to what he did. And just a few things. When Jesus came, he didn't come to tell us about what the government should do. He came to tell us what God's people should do. And you know, many in the first century expected the Messiah to come and to rout the enemy and to give Israel their proper place and so on. And he really shocked them by saying, you know, blessed are the persecuted. And well, no, we didn't want to hear, you know, that we're blessed to be persecuted. We want to, you know, have the comeuppance on our enemies. And so it was radical. It was. He really said what he meant. And one of the things was turning the other cheek. Another thing was to, if someone asked you to take a load 1 mile, take it 2. Now that's a direct reference to Roman soldiers. And there was a law to you had to carry their load 1 mile on the road if a Roman soldier stopped. So you're helping to carry his weapons to the next village, basically. Now these guys were among the terrorists of the day. They were brutal people, and Jesus is saying carry their load an extra mile. This is an outrage, really. The things he sees. And he also taught about the log in our eye. Now when it comes to even a government response, to our response, we have to start with ourselves, whether we're Christians or whether we're Western nations or governments. And it doesn't mean that we lie down and be weak and everything like that, but we've got to have a holistic approach. It's not just military. It's not like our brother said, where we become homophobic or racist and all. Look, we don't want to go back into these things. We've come out of these things in the years past, and we want to keep heading in the right direction. And we want to honor people. It's terror, it's crime that's wrong. And yes, government has a role to keep people safe, but it needs to be holistic. When governments are going around doing wrong things in other nations, that has to stop. We have to care for people in other countries.
If I had the opportunity to address the British government or a member of the Foreign Office who is asking me for strategies engaging with terror, I may not be able to quote scriptures and show the principles from a biblical perspective, but I might be able to show the application. Ruth, the question I'm throwing to you and to all of us is, what advice would you have for people in the marketplace or people who are non-church people as per the response to terror. Just like you mentioned, it's rape, it's arson, it's murder. But what advice would you have for a government official?
You have to cut off the source of recruitment for terrorist groups, which is young men and women who have nothing to do.
By shooting them down?
No. By educating them, by bringing them, giving them some hope. You know, there are millions of young men, and of course young men are the target of terrorist groups, who they just stand around on the street, and when someone shouts, "Let's go and kill them," they all jump up and they go and kill them, because what else have they got to do? You know, when I was that age, when we were that age, our mother and father were saying, "You'll write that exam." These people have no hope. They are without hope and without God in this world. What should the British government be doing? They should be building more schools, sending educational advisors, building hospitals, building clinics, increasing vaccination programs.
It's cheaper than weapons.
Which is it's a very powerful thing that you have just raised. They might not understand your doctrine. They might not even know how much you know, but if they know how much you care, it's probably easier to build a bridge into their world. Can you tell us a bit about the Kent Hodge computer schools? Because I was in Nigeria recently and I heard these crazy guys are at it again. Sorry if I keep saying, I'm saying crazy because it's just crazy for a Christian group to go into a Muslim community. When I went to that community, I heard they had a machine gun in one community that during the crisis, the machine gun was firing so much that even the people holding it got tired and took cover. And a lot of people, I mean, these are people who were hostile before, but now I noticed, and I went into 2 communities that you've set up computer schools there. And now they've embraced Christians. And I'd never seen anything like that before. You know, can you tell us a bit about that?
I believe 96% of Muslims in Nigeria would embrace us the same way as this community has.
Say that again. Can you look at that camera?
Yeah, I believe 96% of Muslims in Nigeria would embrace us as Christians fully and openly, as these people in the Bukaroo community have.
Why? Why would they do such a thing?
Well, look. This is how we. It's a lot to speak about. Is
But
what
it's
I mean.
important.
Yeah, but this is how we preach the gospel. Like Peter said, when they see the hope, when they see your lifestyle, that you're different, that you're crazy, they ask why. You're not like other people. What is this hope? You know, it's not political. It's not what you can get in life, but it's different. And what's the reason for this? And then Peter said, no, okay, now explain the reason. Explain the kingdom of God. Explain Jesus. And with respect and gentleness, he said in Peter's epistle. So when the Muslim elders were saying to me, why are you doing this? You know, you care for our youth, you want to educate our youth freely with computer education. And it said, well, Jesus, he did it for me when I was an enemy. He loved me, he came to me, he came into my community when our community was against him. He was the incarnation that just our model, it's wonderful, and he came to us. So, and he loved me when I was his enemy. And then he told me to follow him and to do that to others. So we are to do to the world what God has done to us. It's the clear message of Scripture. So this points to Christ. And there's, you know, he's so easy to point to in doing this. Now, this Muslim community, I said, I don't want you to name this computer center Kent Hodge because it's not about me. I want you to, what's shalom in Arabic? I don't remember.
Salam.
Salam.
Salam, and the greeting they have, it's salam.
Salam alaikum.
Yeah, computer center. And the Muslim elder said, no, we want Christians to come to this. We don't want any Arabic names in the name of the computer center.
Say that again, because that is so different from what...
Well, I insisted that I don't want my name in the name of the computer center. And I said, I want it to be salam, you know, peace. And the Muslim elders insisted that no, we don't want an Arabic word in the name of the center because we want Christians. We don't want to alienate Christians in any way from joining with our Muslim youth and studying together.
We're going to take a break now. Sit tight and enjoy the show. Here we have this group of Christians who go into Muslim settlements and build computer schools and reach out in fellowship. A friend of mine was killed. He actually was a provost of an institute called the Christian Faith Institute. And you know how they celebrated his death? They went into this Islamic settlement and they built a computer school. While I was in Nigeria, another community invited them to build another school, and I happened to have captured the launch, and it was just an awesome time to be at the commissioning, which was right beside a mosque. I think we have a lot to learn from these guys. There is something more violent than terror, and that is love.
The name of the place is Kent Holt Computer Institute, Bisichi. The institution is non-governmental and they are out to help. They want to touch the life of the people at the grassroots. They want to see people coming together irrespective of their tribe, religion or otherwise. They want to see the human race living in peaceful atmosphere. So that was the first stage of my contact with them, and from there they visited the area that I'm living. They saw for themselves the nature of the place is peaceful. There are a lot of youths that are doing virtually nothing. The predominant job of the area was mining before, and now mining is very capital intensive and the youths are having nothing to do. Ken visited the area, he visited this village twice. The third time he came with his wife, and after going around he promised to us that he want to do something that because of my relationship with the CFI and the people in CFI, he want to touch the life of these people if it is possible. I said it's quite possible. I took him to the Sarki, the community leader here. They had a discussion. Right inside, if you go, you can see some computers that were supplied. No kobo from this community or from any member of this community. All the program is being sponsored and taken care by CFI by Kent through CFI. Supervisory aspect too is from the CFI officials. So we are very delighted and glad. We are very delighted, happy, meeting people and institutions like that. If such is happening, I don't think there will be rancor, there will be fight. Unity will be the watchword. Peace will now go everywhere in the world.